there. Okay, computer engineering problems are there. So whenever you are trying to identify, or you are trying to solve your problem on the basis of some simulators, that is the one way. For example, just imagine that a automata where there is an initial state is there, and another one is the final state is there. From initial state to reach to a final state, multiple ways or multiple states can be, multiple paths can be there. But whenever you are simulating, whenever you are doing the simulation, that is actually covering the one path. So remember this thing. I will be coming to the you must be thinking that what I'm telling you, I will be connecting it to the research papers. Whenever we are solving our problem with the simulation, that is covering the one path of the automata. If you think that your problem is when the problem is an initial state, then it is a start, and you have found out the solution, that is a final state. To reach to the final state, there could be multiple. To reach the final state, there could be multiple ways could be there. So whenever you have to solve it completely, you have to do it analytically, mathematically, by writing the proof of correctness. Okay, the thing is, when you are writing the proof of correctness, you are covering all the paths. And when you see all the papers of transactions, IEEE transaction, there they are preferring the mathematical solutions. That is the difference between a conventional SCI journal where the simulation is accepted, but there is, you will not find the mathematical proofs for that things. But whenever you will be looking at any transactions, you will be looking at multiple mathematical solutions for that things. Multiple mathematical proofs are there. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you the difference between that, how to go for the transaction papers and the low impact factor SCI journals or the Scopus journals. So CS research, I think this is we all understand. See, the thing is, there are two types of research. One is quantitative research, another one is the qualitative research. When we are quantitative, is something where we are doing it on the basis of we are quantifying the research. Means we are not saying that my algorithm is better than the previous one. I'm telling that my algorithm is 2% better than the previous one. Means I am using some kind of quantitative research. Okay, so when you are doing the qualitative research, the qualitative is something like discovering the means you are doing some kind of field work. You have small sample sizes. Experiments are not necessarily repeatable. Okay, so qualitative research is frequently a precursor to quantitative research. Let me tell you one thing, that what is the most basic process of writing. This is very important for the newcomers. This one diagram actually shows that the complete process. You write a manuscript, you write a cover letter, you submit it to the editor, and the result could be either accepted or publication or reject. But in the meantime, the peer review is done, and while the peer review is happening, the revision is the revision of, you can get some kind of revision of your research paper. The revision could be your major revision, the revision could be your minor revision. Very rarely we get the acceptance directly. Okay, very rarely. Okay, now what is peer review is? For example, if I'm working in distributed system and I'm writing my research papers in distributed systems, or some other people are also writing the paper in distributed systems, maybe MANET, FANET, or computational intelligence, for example. So if I have my papers in a particular area, the other people, the other researchers who are writing the research papers in my particular area, I could be the reviewer for that thing. So that is the peer review. Peer is something who is my counterparts working in other areas. So it is like I am writing my research paper and my friends or my other peers are reviewing it. The other peers are writing research papers and I am reviewing it. But we are not knowing each other directly. So obviously some kind of means independence is there, that yes, we are doing it blindly. Means blind peer review, we can call it as, where the authors are unknown to the reviewers. This is the basic process of any research paper is. Okay, so we can see that just one when with this particular diagram, you can just understand that the rejection is a very major area. Although this is showing like, but if we compare it, the papers for going from India to the SCI or Scopus journals, the rejection area could be much larger. Okay, acceptance you can see is very less. Okay, minor revision, then major revision is the most important chunk of this of the papers which are getting into the review process. Okay, so the thing is, we can see the whenever we are thinking, there are two parts of a brain. One is the left side, and another one is the right side. Okay, and both are connected. The one portion is important for logic and reading, and the other portion is important for creativity and writing. So, for a good researcher, is could be considered as a researcher who has a balanced mind. And to get a balanced mind, you should be doing meditation and yoga. So this is one Indian way of getting the mental balance, or to become a balanced person, to become mentally strong. There could be other ways also to achieve the same state. So just telling you my point of view. The next thing is the beginning. So whenever I will be reading, I will be telling you a particular way of writing a research paper. I will be telling you many information. I will be giving you many information in one slide only. So I have given already the importance of literature review. And when you are doing the literature review, you are aware that, see, what is a research is, there is a mountain, you have to reach to the mountain, and you have to put a flag on that particular mountain. So that small flag is your research. But important part is the journey. Unless and until you reach the top, and the reaching the top, when we compare it to the research work, is that something that is the literature review. You're reading something, you are getting the domain knowledge of that of your particular area. If you don't have the domain knowledge, you cannot do the review. It's like you don't know the Sanskrit, but you're trying to write a shloka, or you don't know, you don't have any you don't know about the language, but you are trying to write a poem. So knowing something means, whenever you are working on in a research area, literature review becomes the most important. What I personally feel is that literature review is something, I always compare it with the static friction. Static friction is always larger than the dynamic one. So if you overcome that static friction in a better manner, then only your dynamic or the rolling friction becomes very less, and more number of research papers you can produce in near future, and more quality research papers you can, because once everything is clear to you, you already know the gaps. And when you know the gaps, you can look out for the possible solutions also. Okay, then when you have done the literature review means when you're reading the research papers, now those research paper also become part of a literature review. So you can just write down certain in 2-3 lines, you can just start writing that what you have understood from a particular research paper. Then when this is clear that this kind of research problem is available, you can write a hypothesis, and you can back that hypothesis by thinking that this is an important problem, a practical solution for it is needed, this topic is unique or not. And the other thing is, so why reading and writing are interconnected? Obviously, the left side is for logic and reading, and the right side is the creativity and the writing, which I have already explained to you. Okay, so literature review, I have already told you some of these becomes your references. And just a second. So some of them becomes your references also, and some of them can also be used for the introduction and discussion and comparison also. When you are so comparison is also needed, because when you are the most close research paper needs comparison. You need better results than the previous work, then only your research paper becomes acceptable. Okay, so let us move further. Means what? Just a second. Okay, so how to identify, what are the ways of identifying the research papers, means which research paper you should study. So the research paper which you have to study should not be directly Googled. You have to, but yes, the best way is that instead of doing identifying your looking your paper from Google, you can use Google Scholar. In Google Scholar, you can also choose a timeline. For example, I want research paper from 2019 to 2022, for example. So I will be getting the latest papers in that particular search. Okay, there are other databases like Appendix, Inspect, IEEE Explore Library, and Springer, IEEE, ACM. Everyone has their own libraries, and you can look for those things, and you can look for the universities where the subscription is available. Another area is that from where you can download, although that is not considered to be ethical, but that is one is the SCI hub from where you can download the research papers. Although, but that is something most of the researchers from the developing country are getting their research papers from. Okay, SCI hub. Although that is not ethical to get the research papers, but ethical word is a very broad meaning. It has a very broad meaning. How ethical the publishing world is, or the how ethical this thing. So it is a complete a different topic on which the debate can happen, that why they are charging for our papers only. Okay, the next thing is what is the way when you are reading the research paper? Skim reading. Skim reading means you can download 20, 30, 40 papers in one go. From once you have downloaded those papers, you can just read the title, you can just read the keywords, abstract and conclusion by getting. While see, abstract is the most important part of any research paper. Is a maximum of the research papers are either rejected or accepted in the abstract part only. So if the abstract is of not quality, you have not written the abstract properly, the chances of rejection becomes much higher. So see, abstract is generally written in 100 words. Your research paper could be written in 10, 12, 7 to 12, 13 pages. So abstract is 100 to 200 words. In 100 to 200 words, you have to write the complete research paper. So it becomes very technical when you are writing the abstract. So abstract itself should be the complete portion, and abstract is the information which is available freely also. All the publication houses are not charging for the abstract. The abstract is shown very clearly. So abstract, writing an abstract itself is an art, and writing means you should be, see, there is an art to write an abstract, and when you will be writing multiple research papers, then only it gets enhanced. Okay, you have to be very specific, you have to be very precise. Selecting the keywords means proper keywords actually increases your citations, because if you whenever the other authors who are searching the research papers will be selecting or searching on the basis of keywords only. And conclusion, that is in the end how you are concluding future work you can show. Okay, so this is the, then you, after the skim reading, you can go to the scan reading. You can shortlist some of the papers. You can give half an hour that is to a particular paper. Okay, you can read the introduction, abstract again. Okay, and the headings of the every paragraph, and then the conclusion. Then detailed reading. Remember this thing, detailed reading generally is done for the paper, for the base papers. And remember this thing, then whenever you are starting your PhD, whenever you are starting your PhD, then you should make the base paper as a very good paper. Because if the base paper, if your basement is not correct, then building on which you are going to make the building can be a shaky building that does not have life. So your base paper should be from transactions, from good publication houses. You should not be looking for the base papers from the journals which are not good. And you should be selecting the base papers with the consultations from your guide. And the base paper is one of the most important part of whenever you are starting the research work. Okay, for example, when I chose my base paper, that was first from transactions. Okay, so the next thing is the intense reading. Now let us come to the ethics part. Ethics is something that who should be the author of your research paper. Okay, so authorship, citation, plagiarism, multiple submission, copyright, fabrication of data. So I will be giving you here on itself authorship. Who should be the author? Author cannot be a person who is just reading your research work and giving some comments. Author should be a person who has developed the some of the important section of the paper. Okay, so it is unethical to become an author or to include authors just to increase chances of your research work to get accepted. Okay, so the thing is, next thing is a citation. Citation obviously is, let us move to, okay, before going to the citation, I would like to share some of the facts. You must be thinking, you will be much amazed by looking at this particular slide, that how many research papers, more research papers are getting published or more books are getting published. So although this data is bit some years down the line, but still at that particular time also, 2 million books were getting published worldwide per year, but only 1.5 million research papers are getting published in a year. So you can just imagine the number of books which are coming out are more in number than the research papers. So you can understand the importance and the gravity of the research papers. How many people, how many researchers are getting caught of doing fraud? So when I ask this question in face-to-face meetings, many of the I generally get the answer like 10%, 20%, 30%. But the only people who are getting, who are committing the frauds are those people who are actually caught. I hope you all got to know that what actually I want to say. So only 2% authors are generally identified. Author, as far as the credibility of an author is there, I have already explained it. As far as the citation is concerned, so it is the reference of a book or a paper. It is very, very important whenever you are taking some information from some research paper or from some link or from some book. You should give the reference for that thing. It is very, very important. It is important to give the respect to that particular person who has developed that thing, and it is also technically important for the backward compatibility of your research paper. Whenever the reviewer is reading the research paper, he should know that from where you have got this particular information. In case you are not writing the citation, your paper could be rejected also, because when there is no credible backward compatibility is there, that from where this information has come. For example, if you are taking the information from the transaction from any good journal, SCI research paper, that research paper itself becomes a guarantee for your the kind of information which you want to say into your research paper. So giving references or giving citation in your research paper is the one of the most important part. Okay, when to cite: statistical data, direct quotes, theories, facts, paraphrases. Okay, so the thing is plagiarism. Oh, let us see. I'm moving a bit faster because I have less amount of time and I want to share maximum of the information. So the thing is, whenever the plagiarism is the something which is the reuse of someone else information. So if you are for example, if you are copying the information directly from the research papers, then your career could be derailed. Remember this thing. Plagiarism is a very, very big crime in the research world. Okay, so means when we see being a conference convener and when we are reviewing the papers, to identify the plagiarism is one of the very, very big tasks. This is a general habit of the researchers. Okay, many Chinese and many Indian authors are doing the plagiarism. Remember this thing: doing plagiarism, the amount of time you are allocating to do the plagiarism, in that amount of time you can develop a new research paper. I'm guaranteeing you this thing. The people who are doing plagiarism are intelligent people, but they are working in wrong direction. So I request to those people to change their way and don't fall for the plagiarism. Okay, that is only giving you shortcuts, but shortcuts are never good way of getting the appreciation. Okay, so let us move further. So IEEE has given the 5 degrees of plagiarism. Copying someone's entire article, obviously that is the most biggest crime. Copying a large portion, 20 to 50% without giving credit or some kind of reference. You are just without credit, 20%. Uncredited paraphrasing. Okay, so these are some of the crimes in the research world which one should not be doing. And remember this thing: you could be banned from a particular community, from a particular group of from a particular publishing house, like for example IEEE or Springer or ACM, if you are doing that kind of plagiarism. And remember this thing, Springer, IEEE and other bodies are also connected somewhere. They have their investigating teams. I have talked with those people who are investigated. See, we can just say that there could be a myth that the Springer team is not aware about what is going in the team of, for example, elsewhere. They actually meet, they exchange information about the authors. So this is happening. This is, and I have seen this thing in reality. So remember this thing, one should not be following the unethical practices. So self-plagiarism, the types of are self-plagiarism, multiple submissions. Multiple submission itself is another crime. For example, you are submitting a research paper into same research paper at same time in two different venues is a crime, and you could be banned for that thing also. Because see, what could be the possibility? The peer community is very small, so it is quite possible that if you submit your research paper in two different venues, that research paper can land to the same reviewer. The same reviewer could be contacted by both the publishers. So it becomes a very big crime. You could be banned from both the thing. So copyright transfer, so fabrication of data. So selecting the venue. Okay, means what are the, first of all, we should be understanding what are the types of articles. So papers could be divided into four parts. One is the review articles, which we know that survey papers, review articles, and letters, that those are short papers. Okay, remember this thing, short papers. These are very important papers, short papers, and they are generally submitted to, for example, IEEE magazines. Okay, they have very high impact factor, and these are very important also. Totally new information should be there in these letters. Conference articles, like the conference which is happening in DoSCI is one of the example. Okay, original research which can be sent to the complete paper, which can be sent to the journals. Okay, just a second. I will be concluding this. I hope that you all were enjoying this information. So the thing is, selecting a conference, you should be. I will be just taking another 2-3 minutes to complete this thing. When you are selecting a particular conference, it should be a grading. It should be a reputed conference. For example, Springer-based conferences or IEEE conferences are good conferences. Okay, open access. There is another myth related to open access journals, but all open access papers are not bad journals. Remember this thing. Special issues. The authors who are looking for faster results should go for special issues of the various journals. Okay, so journal could be divided into parts: SCI, SCIE, ESCI. Majorly, we are focusing on these things: SCI, SCIE, ESCI, and Scopus. Okay. So SCI is Science Citation Index. SCI E is the expanded, which are online versions, and those were the earlier conventional SCI papers. ESCI, which are emerging, that is also Web of Science. Okay, so the difference between SCI, SCIE, and ESCI, I've already told you. Web of Science, like emerging SCI. Okay, SCI Mago papers you can find out here. Whenever you are calculating the impact factor of a journal, that is all the citation of 2 years upon the number of papers which have been published in the last 2 years. The ratio of that thing actually gives the impact factor of a journal. Remember this thing, higher impact journals are always, just listen this line very carefully, higher impact factor journals are always not the good journals. This can be calculated, this could be improved. Okay, so there are some disadvantages of research factors. There are other factors also, we can identify this thing. So there are many things. I've given you a lot of information about introduction and other things. So importance of research, conclusion, references. Okay, so the thing is, with this I conclude my talk. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask. Over to you, Yashika.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. I hope all of us, if ever want to write a research paper, we'll be able to do it correctly and precisely. So, the next distinguished to honor us with her presence is Dr. Neeram Dubey from Carnegie Mellon University, USA. Dr. Neeram Dubey is an associate teaching professor at Heinz College since 2015. Prior to that, she worked as an instructor at Penn State University in the College of Information Sciences and Technology since 2011. Before moving into academics, she spent over 20 years in the IT industry teaching and research reflecting academics as well as practitioner perspectives. She is an PhD in Information Science and Technology from Penn State University and has 2 master's degrees from Heinz School, Carnegie Mellon University in Information Technologies, and BITS Pilani. India in Computer Science, MTech 1992. Her undergraduate education was also in Computer Science from Institute of Engineering and Technology, Lucknow, BTech batch 1989.
Thank you, Yashika. Can everybody hear me? Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. So greetings to all of you and many thanks for listening to my talk today. I would start with thanking Dr. D.S. Yadav for honoring me with this opportunity to speak at such an important milestone. Also, thank you, Dr. Parul Yadav, for organizing this event. And special thanks to Dr. Neeram Srivastav. I'm not sure if she's there right now, but please do convey my thanks to her, who has helped me re-establish my connection with my roots. So as you probably just now heard, and you may already know, IET Lucknow is like a second home to me. I graduated from there in 1989. It's been a while, but its memories are still fresh in my mind, and they always fill me with gratitude and nostalgia. I started my professional journey in this campus, and I'm truly thankful to all my professors who taught me. They allowed me to make mistakes and also helped me to learn from those mistakes. After IET, I think I wanted to learn more. And so after a short stint in the industry, I enrolled into a master's program at BITS Pilani, and then I graduated from there in 1992. At that time, I felt, I think I know all there is to know. So I went to industry and worked there for about 15 years or so. And then around that time, I started feeling that technology is changing so fast and I need to renew my knowledge. So I did another master's from CMU and I graduated in 2010. But that, kind of fanned my desire to learn more. And so I went for a PhD from Penn State University. Now, all these educational milestones have been key to my personal and professional growth. But whenever I think about my degrees or certifications, I always remember what our dean in our PhD's orientation program said to all of us. He said that when we get bachelor's degree, we think that we know something about this world. Then we do master's, and we begin to think that we know all there is to know. We are masters, right? But then we go through PhD. And then we realize that we do not know anything, and neither does anyone else. And this thought and this realization brings humility. I think it was one of the most profound realizations I've had in my educational journey. All of us at different stages in our professional educational journeys are searching for knowledge. So just because someone has traveled a little more doesn't mean that that someone has, or rather knows everything that there is to know. Learning is a lifelong journey, and PhD programs especially help us realize what we don't know. PhD program exposes our blind spots. And those blind spots, when we recognize those blind spots, that's when we are ready to learn more. So it is with this humility that I try to approach every job, every project, every task that I undertake. So we are technologists or scientists, and we should always remember that we are not above non-technologists or non-scientists. We just happen to know a little more about something very specific and narrow. Sometimes this highly specialized knowledge comes at the cost of ignorance about other things. And it can sometimes generate a sense of superiority or what is called as elitism. So my talk today is about such a blind spot where we think that we know it all, and we go ahead and start building tools and technologies and conducting research. These blind spots, especially in the field of computational science and especially data scientists, these blind spots are becoming a matter of concern because they are beginning to shake our trust in the scientific community. And I'll talk about that today. That's the reason I kind of phrased my entire talk around the concept or idea of trust. So let me go back. So when I was deciding about my research topic in my PhD, I was tempted to take up data science as the focus area because that's the latest buzz, that's the upcoming field. But then I wanted to go beyond programming and statistics and beyond computers. I wanted to look into other fields of knowledge, other disciplines. I wanted to understand humans, societies, social institutions. I wanted to see what other fields of knowledge are discovering about this world. And since I had recently left industry and I had joined higher education sector as a teaching instructor, and as all of you know, that higher education sector in US and even around the world is one of the most esteemed institution in the world, right? We all love higher education, universities and colleges, and we have huge respect for them. So I decided to make higher education as the focus of my research. So while working on my PhD thesis, one thing I had to do, and I struggled to do it, but I just enjoyed doing it, was I had to shift my thinking away from computer science, computational science, programming, everything technical, to social science. And that helped me see a new dimension of our social life, which had been completely hidden from me. I had been immersed in technology, computer programs, almost all my life. And that had made me blind to some other bigger social realities. I started to realize that technology encourages utilitarian way of thinking. Technological institutions, they focus on efficiency, speed, precision, utility. Technology means focusing on machines, not on communities or people or societies. We are incentivized to make things faster, cheaper. Now, while all that is great, we do get blinded by its brilliance, and we begin to ignore the world beyond machines. And there is this rush towards efficiency. We run the risk of stripping out some very basic foundational values of our lives, one of which is trust, which is what I'm going to talk about. So when I was using this lens of social science for my research, I began to see how technology is changing our ways of life, how is it changing us, how it is changing our thinking, how we see each other, and how it is taking over everything else. And technology is helping. Please do know that I am a technologist. I love technology. And I know that technology helps us all. But I also began to see how sometimes it hurts us. For example, we all say social media has connected this world like never before, which is true. It is one of the greatest achievements of humanity in recent history. But how has that impacted our social trust? Do we trust each other more or less? Now, let me just shift towards something different. One of the oldest social institutions is government, right? And the reality is that government or political institutions, they have been losing trust among its people. So according to a recent Pew research, only about 25% of people in the US trust their government. This number, at 25%, was 80% in 1960. So 80% people trusted their government in 1960. That has come down to 25% in the US. And you may say, oh, you know what, this is politics and lack of trust goes, that's the nature of the game. But just think about this a little bit. Why don't we trust politics as much? One of the reasons, and as many social scientists who conduct research in this area have found out, is that when politicians place their own good, their own benefit over social good, when power becomes more important than people, when people feel that they are being manipulated for someone else's gain. Now, the same Pew Research study shows that science is the second most trusted institution after military. Now, these findings are based on survey conducted in the US, but I think I can take the risk of generalizing it to most countries of the world, if not all. And I can very safely say that we trust science more than we trust politics, right? Why do we trust science? Because science has earned its trust through decades or maybe centuries of rigor and transparency. We all know scientific methods. I was listening to Dr. Ashish Khanna's talk just before my talk, and I was just wondering, look at the rigor, look at the discipline, look at the detail, the transparency. We understand the rigor, we can read the research papers, and we can see what scientists are doing and why they are doing it. There is nothing secretive, nothing hidden, nothing manipulative. And for the most part, we can be confident that there is no intentional effort to misguide the public in general. Science works for human good. It demonstrates transparency. It respects rigor. It engenders trust. We trust the institution of science. And this is where I want to bring in the idea of trust in technology. There are at least two sides to technology, right? I mean, all of us know that. Many of you are conducting your research in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and related areas. And I'm really proud of that. Our algorithms are doing a great deal of good to our societies. They are helping solve really tough social problems. And all that is really good. But if we are not careful, if we are not thoughtful with such algorithms, we may be creating decision-making machines that may cause havoc. So if you have been keeping track, the list of social injustice caused by such algorithms is growing. Let me mention just a few here. First issue is that algorithms are inherently biased because they learn from our past data. And our past has bias, right? So one example, just to kind of give a context here. So for example, there is a racial or ethnic or gender bias in hiring for jobs where algorithms are used to scan resumes, and they discard those applications that do not fit into the stereotypical successful profile. So if you know how machine learning algorithms work, you will be, you know that you will be chosen for the job. Or rather, if you know how they work, you know who will be chosen for the job. Well, whosoever looks most like the people who did that role in the past. So just that approach throws diversity out of the window. The more different you are from that perfect profile of the past, the lesser are your chances to be called for an interview. For example, there was an article in the Wired magazine, and this is obviously very specific to US. 88% of employees in Microsoft are male and 80% are white. Now, if you are a non-white female applying to Microsoft, your resume will probably never make it past a resume scanner. And you will never get that call for the first interview. Now, these biases have come out in news. They are in media. And some companies have stopped using algorithmic scanning of resumes. But there are still some organizations continuing to use these biased tools. They are continuing to use these algorithms, causing or aggravating social discrimination. Similar other examples are when algorithms are used in criminal justice system, or when insurance companies use algorithms to decide insurance premiums for individuals, or schools use algorithms to decide which teachers to promote, and so on. They are all infected with human bias. A second issue is the idea behind recommendation engines or filter bubbles being used in social media that tend to bring us closer to the people who are like us. And they push people away, they push those people away from us who are different. We are closer to those who think like us, who reinforce our biases. We are becoming distant from those who can challenge our thinking. We are trapped in a bubble. While it may not make much of a difference at an individual level, these filter bubbles can create, or actually are creating, and aggravating social division and making people more hardlined in their thinking. We are beginning to stop listening to the other side. So the list of such examples is long and it is growing. And if you're not careful, it is just a matter of time when most of human decision-making will be replaced by AI. And without knowing, we all will be selectively exposed to opportunities, points of views, and everything that we seek in our lives based on the data about people in the past. Now, if you think a little deeply about this, these machines are trying to recreate our pasts into our future. So at this point, I would like to share one conceptual diagram. Let's see if I can get this going. So whenever I'm kind of thinking deeply about any topic, I draw. So let me see if I can bring this up. Okay, do you see my screen, shared screen? There's nothing on it right now, yes? Yeah. Okay. So, so when we are using, whatever I'm talking about, so it all starts with a need. Let's say we want to connect to a friend. We want to watch a movie. We want to buy something from a website. So we use some software. When we use this software, some data is created about us, which is recorded. Then the AI algorithms, they scan for patterns to predict our future. And given its predictions, it starts to, or rather tries to, influence our decision. It uses our data to know more about us in the form of surveillance, or it filters out the content. For example, selectively showing us some advertisements and not showing others, which could result into opportunities being available or not available to us. It filters out news. It filters out recommendation for a movie. And these are little nudges made by the algorithm. We generate more data and the cycle goes on. And the more we engage in this process, the more we reinforce this cycle. Now, what is the problem here? This all is good. This is what data science phenomena is for the most part, especially where the social sciences, behavioral sciences are involved. But the problem lies in the outcomes or the side effects. What are the side effects? Our decisions become biased. We lose autonomy because we are not thinking for ourselves anymore. We are letting machines think for us based on decisions made in the past. We are, and that tendency is also called as losing our right to future. We are not creating a fresh future. We are kind of repeating our past. We are letting machines decide our future based on our past. Because of all the data that is collected about us, we are losing privacy. We are losing our right to be forgotten. I know this has been in the news all over the world, where we have put something on the internet for some reason or the other. We don't want it there anymore, but we cannot take it out. And it remains there, stuck in the memory, as if it's the past which is frozen. It cannot be, it refuses to go back to past. And then we have these filter bubbles that I talked about. So now this entire phenomenon, let me just stop this share. So this entire phenomenon is now being studied and analyzed and debated upon across the scientific community. We are beginning to see that the technology, which we thought to be neutral, is actually not neutral, often. And this cyclical reinforcement is one of the troubling characteristics of data science. And the problem, the root of the problem, I think, lies at two levels. One, the algorithms that are being used in such cases, they are too sophisticated often for human mind to fathom. So we can write all the code for it, but we struggle to explain why this algorithm is giving this result. The more sophisticated the algorithm, harder it is to understand and explain to non-computational people. All right, but the second problem, which is, I believe, more serious, is that the organizations or institutions who are using or creating these algorithms are not being transparent sometimes. Not always, sometimes. Now, if all of you know, and again, I'm referring back to Dr. Khanna's presentation before mine, where he was talking about all that documented practice, the protocol, the standards of scientific research. So scientific research used to have a very well-documented practice of seeking one's permission before their data was collected, right? Now, that practice has been very quietly put aside. So new digital technologies, especially in social media, have impacted social and behavioral research that we had never imagined before. So we all of us have signed up as research subjects who are willingly giving away our data without knowing to unknown entities hiding behind social media companies. And this data is being analyzed to shape our behavior. So science has become data science. Now, data science is great. Everybody knows that. We all know that. But its applications are not always helping everyone in an equitable way. So for data science to gain or maintain social trust, it will have to become transparent the way science has been transparent. Organizations creating data science algorithms using our data will have to become more transparent. Now, I know and I'm proud of the fact that many of you are aspiring to be data scientists of tomorrow, and that is exactly why I decided to talk to you about this today. Data science can do tremendous amount of good in our society, much like all science has been doing so far. I am myself a student of data science. I teach data scientists. I'm very proud of my university that is renowned for its great research in this field. But within my university and in the scientific community, we are also talking about how data science can very easily lose its path. And it can start hurting people, it can start hurting social communities, and aggravating social discrimination. So it is the new, the shiny new object of our times. But it's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways. It can cut our social problems, which is why we love it so much. But let's not let it cut our trust in science. So trust is the foundation of all that is important in our lives, from personal relationships to social institutions, to our societies. And it is fragile. Trust is fragile. It takes many years, decades, generations to build. And it takes just one careless or foolish or selfish act to break it forever. So let us put our head together to find approaches that allow scientists and technologists to pause and think about their innovations and what those innovations can potentially do to our world. We should acknowledge and incentivize research that helps build trust in science, especially in data science. So I would like to close here with a request to you all. You all are the future. So as you progress in your educational and professional journey, please make sure that you give trust in science and technology as much importance as everything else. We all are very fortunate to have been part of this phenomenal digital revolution, but let's not forget that we also bear a great responsibility. So we have to build a future where science and technology works for everyone in an equitable way with full transparency and trust to do social good for all. That's all I had to say today. Thank you very much. And I would be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, ma'am, to enlighten us with the idea of technology and transparency, trust and transparency in technology, and various concepts of data science and ML algorithms. This is a lot of value addition to our knowledge base. Thank you so much, ma'am. If anyone has any questions, kindly put it in the chat box.
So I see a very interesting question from Professor Yadav. Why algorithms are giving such results, especially to non-CS community? What should be solution if any faulty algorithm does not participate in decision making? So if I understand the question correctly, you're asking what should we do if the algorithms cannot be explained, which many of them cannot be, to non-CS community, right? And so there is a lot of research going on in this area. And I come from social engineering background. So when we are building software, social media software platforms, social media platforms, or any software that uses people's data, there are a lot of checks and balances that are being introduced in the entire software development process. And methodologies are being proposed and most of all, and I think this is something which I would love to share with all of you. When I started computer science, software engineering long time ago, technology was as neutral as it could be. And I had to, and we were taught, so we were computer engineers, right? So when we used to go to organizations to build systems for them, we were taught how to talk to business people. So business here could be people from that domain. So let's say I'm going to a hospital to develop software for them. So I had to talk to doctors or medical practitioners, right? We had to talk to non-technical people, and non-technical as in non-CS people, and understand their technology, understand their vocabulary, understand their way of thinking, understand what they need, why they need it, right? So we had to learn the skill of talking to non-CS people. So those were business people. Now, there is a third group, and those are legal people. They're policy people. So now software engineers have to talk to legal people that, hey, I'm making this software. Is it legal if I do this with the data? Is it legal if I store this data? How long can I store this data? Am I impinging on laws of privacy or any such related laws? So we have to understand, as CS people, we have to understand legalities of the domain in which we are building software. So coming back to Dr. Yadav's question, there are two things that are happening. One, methodologies are being proposed. This is a fresh research area. A lot of new research is happening. And if you're interested, look up, there is a conference that happens, which started just 4 years ago. This tells you how new this is, right? This recognition is so new. Look up Fairness and Accountability, FACCT, Fairness and Accountability Conference, which is ACM conference. This year it is being hosted in South Korea in June. So that is just a starting point. If you go and look up what they have been doing, the kind of research they do, that will help you understand what the scientific community is doing to overcome this problem. The problem of not being able to explain what algorithm is doing. The problem of making sure, how do I make sure that my algorithm is fair? And what if it is not? What if and algorithm fairness comes basically from the data that you use. So how do you account for fairness? My algorithm has been trained on data, which is from the past, and our past is biased. We all know that. So how do I fix that data so that it does not reinforce that bias in our future? So I hope I answered your question, but yes, that's a hot new emerging area.
Yeah. So, ma'am, it was a thought-provoking. I think it was fantastic. Let me put it like this. Very quickly, I would like to cite one of the conference where I have participated, and very senior scientist from the population studies. So what he has done, actually, he has taken lots of data, past data, of course, related with the population and the population growth in the country, and was a very senior scientist. And he presented the model before the community, which is primarily it was non-CS community, and he using lots of statistical parameter and statistical method. He said that population is going to decline in some of the state and something like that. And that recommendation from this was to be presented before the very high level in the government of India. Intuitively, when lots of questions came up based on the knowledge and the experience from the past, he himself agreed, yes, something is missing in the model and it should not have been like this. So this was the observation. It was coming from the knowledge and the experience, rather the rigorous model and the computation that was revealing some other things. Usually, I think you have rightly mentioned that trust is something, because when this recommendation goes at the high level, at the top level for the decision of the planning, yes, it can be an issue. So this has been bothering the data scientists because we do work in the data science. Uh, how do we deal with these issues? These are really challenging issues. Because most of the non-CS people, they think that they have used very mathematical and the rigor, lots of rigor is out there. They have done lots of programming, and yes, indeed, they have done it. But some fundamental, something is missing. That is the reason the result cannot be fully trusted.
I missed the last part. Just repeat the last sentence.
So how do we deal with when the recommendations using these algorithms, so there is a huge amount of data and lots of models are being developed, lots of statistical methods, so on and so forth. So recommendation that comes, if they are biased, and that is you have mentioned, so this poses a great risk over the trust. Say after putting in so many rigor with mathematics and the programming, if something is coming out, the larger non-CS people, and those who are more technical, especially the policy planners, they are ready to take up, since this has come from some scientific method, and they try to take it as it is. And this poses a great trust. If there is some
so there was some disturbance in when you're saying. So I have tried to understand and capture your question, and I think you're asking what should we do as CS people who are doing research in this area. And I think there are two things we have to do. One, of course, whatever research we are doing, it is not necessary that all data science research will be biased. That's not what I'm trying to say. But there could be, you could be, especially when it deals with people's data. So there could be some research that could be biased. So I want all the researchers who are today participating in this talk, they should be aware of this. Awareness, first step is awareness. Once you are aware, then you can start being more careful. So that's one. And the second thing, I am an educator. I am less of a researcher, more of an educator. So as an educator, I feel we should educate our scientists and our data scientists about this as much as we can. Once they know, I think they are smart enough to figure out a way to make sure that their research is not misused or misinterpreted and biased. And so there's no one-shot solution. As I mentioned, if you look into the publications in that conference, which I mentioned a while ago, everybody's looking for answers. It's not an easy topic. It's very complicated, and it's not just math that will solve this problem. Math will not, CS will not solve this problem. People from social sciences have to they are stepping in. Lawyers are stepping in. Behavioral scientists are stepping in. Because all of us have to collectively think, how do we take care of this before it does a lot of damage? And there is a lot of damage already happening. So I kind of wanted to do this, my part as an educator, and talk to the students and the future researchers. That just watch out, okay? Data science is the shiny tool, the new shiny tool that we have. But remember, as I said, it cuts both ways. Okay, so just be very, very careful.
It is, ma'am, a wonderful talk from your side. I think the crux of your talk is that the implication on various strata of social people of the multidisciplinary research which is happening. What I personally feel means on the various strata of the people. And this is a very, very complex process, and means when all the domain people, the researchers or the various communities will be giving their inputs on the kind of research, then only we can see the outcome. This is a totally on the fly process, which we can analyze maybe in near future. And this is a very complex thing, research topic, what I personally feel. And you have actually spoken about something which is very, very important and very futuristic. In fact, means I have never seen a topic like this, and this is really very important for the future of the research, the way the research has to be handled, and what should be the mindset of an researcher should be when they are doing the research. so that they can make stopgap arrangements or some kind of arrangements in their research, that their research should not be misused, something like that.
Yes. Right, absolutely. Yes, thank you for your comments. No other questions?
I think, ma'am, no questions. And as you said that the lower fields and social factors are also taking steps into the field, and we have GDPR, General Data Privacy Rule. And I feel that synthetic data generation also can play an active role in that. And if we create the certificate or trustworthiness of designed model, so somewhat they can give the contribution to the data science field, like synthetic data generation will help us in regulating this rule GDPR. And if we have designed some machine learning model, then it is equally important to ensure its trustworthiness. So your presentation is really meaningful to us, very knowledgeable and informative, as always, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Parul. Okay, so I will sign off then. Thank you once again to everybody, and wish you all the best, especially students here who are pursuing PhD. Remember, you are beginning to realize that you don't know anything, and neither does anyone else, right? So we are all exploring, we're looking for answers, we're looking for knowledge. So keep going, keep working, keep learning, keep exploring. I'm always happy to be there and help you whenever you need my help. And thank you so much. Have a great day. Good. Bye.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Moving forward, now I would like to welcome Professor Yu-Dong Zhang. Yu-Dong Zhang received the BE degree in Information Sciences, the MPhil degree in Communication and Information Engineering from the Nanjing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics in 2004 and 2007, respectively, and the PhD degree in Signal and Information Processing from Southeast University in 2010. He was a postdoc from 2010 to 2012 with Columbia University, and as an assistant research scientist from 2012 to 2013 with Research Foundation of Mental Hygiene. His research interests include deep learning and medical image analysis. He's a fellow of the IET, FIET, and senior member of the IEEE, IES, and ACM. He was included in the most cited Chinese researchers by Elsevier from 2014 to 2018. He was the recipient of the Web of Science Highly Cited Researcher 2019, Emerald Citation of Excellence 2017, and MDPI Top 10 Most Cited Papers 2015. He was included in Top Scientists in Guide to Research. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. And it's my honor to give a talk for this conference. So I will try to share my screen. So can you see my screen now? Hello, can you see the screen?
Yes, your screen is visible to us, sir.
Okay, thank you. So now I will continue. And meanwhile, in order to save the bandwidth, I will switch on my camera. Okay, wait a moment. Okay. 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 So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The title of my talk is the computational intelligence for COVID-19 diagnosis. This slide briefly shows the introduction, but I believe just now the chair has already given us a brief introduction. So now let's directly move to the talk. Due to the limited time, I was reminded I only have 30 minutes for the talk. So we will have some basic introduction on the graph convolutional network and the attention network in what we have done to diagnose the COVID-19. So Here, I will just briefly show that we have chosen two data sets. One is the public data set called the SARS-CoV-2, the CT scan data set, which is uploaded on Kaggle, and everyone can download it. And this data set is a public hospital of the governmental employee of the Sao Paulo at Brazil. There are over 1,200 CT scans that are positive, and there are also 1,200 CT scans for the healthy people. And these data sets are quite easy to diagnose. So we also propose some private data set. The private data set is from multiple nations, including the ASEAN, the American, and Europe. And we find that we try to recruit 66 patients with COVID-19 and 71 patients with the secondary pulmonary tuberculosis, and 69 patients with a community-acquired pneumonia. We call it a CAP. And finally, the last but not the least, the 66 healthy controls. So we will turn it into a multi-class classification problem that is about in total 4 categories. We think it will fit to the realistic conditions. And in this slide, you can see we have some samples for each category. And on the top left corner, you will see what a CT scan of a COVID-19 looks like. And you can see there are many ground glass opacities on the COVID-19 CT scans. And meanwhile, you can see on the top right corner, what we have is the tuberculosis. And on the bottom left, you can see what we call the pneumonia. And finally, on the bottom right corner, you can see like a crystal clear CT scans. There's no lesions, no ground glass opacities. What you can see is just the blood vessel, and you can see almost 100% of the background is black, which shows it's a healthy lung. Okay, so how do we label the CT scans? We invite like 2 radiologists with the chest diagnostic experience, more than 10 years, to collectively read the CT images. And there are differences between the analysis. For example, maybe one radiologist said it is CT, but another one says, no, it's not. Oh, sorry. One said it's a COVID-19, but another disagrees. In this situation, we will invite a superior doctor to reach a consensus. So this shows the pre-processing. Okay, I will try to find the not remote control. I think usually we have some nasal, the laser pen here, but I cannot find it. It's called the presentation tools, right? Well, the presentation tools, okay, this doesn't matter. I will quickly skip it. So you can see here, we first will try to grayscale the RGB, the red, green, blue images, and then we will do some what we call the histogram stretching. This is to help to make the black even more black, make the white even more white. Yeah, you can think in an easy way, and then we need to crop the margins and remove the texts. You can see on the left corner, we have some, there are some like a checkup bed at the bottom, where the patient or the subject will lie above on it. And on the right side, there are some rulers. And also this is does not help the diagnosis, so we will remove it. And in some like pictures, we have some like patients' names and their age, their gender, some privacy information on the corners. So we also need to crop all those private informations. So this process, we call it the margin and the text crop. And finally, we resize all the images to the predefined sizes. So on the rightmost of this slide, you can see what the pre-processed image looks like. Okay, so now we will discuss what we have done so far. The first is called the graph convolutional network. And in our lab, we developed 3 different graph networks. They are called the ResGNet-C, the CGNet, and the FGCNet. And before I move on, I will try to give a short explanation, the motivation of why we're using graph. Because someone will say that we can use transfer learning, or we can even use the traditional artificial intelligence. So why do we need to use graph in the diagnosis of the COVID-19? The answer is that the inspiration is to not only learn the image level representation, but also to use the relation-aware representation. So you may be aware that if we use the traditional convolutional network, the CNN, what we learn is that we call it the image level representation. But here, suppose, let's say we want to learn the representation inter samples, like among the different samples. So you can have a look of the top left corner. There are some graph here. This graph just shows, okay, so just want to check, can you see my mouse? Like the mouse is moving here. I'm not sure whether you can see it. Hello?
No, sir.
Oh. No? Oh, okay. Then I may need some help to try to switch on the pen, because usually in each slide we have a lot of contents. So it's better that we can have some laser pen, so you can know where I'm focusing on. Okay, sorry, please bear with me. I'm trying to turn on the presentation tool, but I'm not sure how do I turn it on. Okay, let me say mute, stop video, no security, no participant, no chat, no share, no, it's not remote control apps. Oh, I'm not sure. So, okay, never mind. I will try to okay, this doesn't matter. But anyway, I think the relation-aware representation, you can think, let's say if you are a module convener, you want to mark the student exam papers. And if you think, let's say, you set some clusters, some are called the distinction, some are called excellent, some are pass, and some are fail. And you have 4 clusters. You will try to link each exam paper to these clusters. And this link itself will form the graph. So this is the motivation why we try to use graph in this case. And the motivation of using graph is that we expect the AI systems will generate more accurate results. So if we're considering the relationship among the input images. Okay, so now we come to the slide. How do we construct the graph? We first use the K-means clustering to generate the cluster centroids. So the cluster centroids, maybe for the COVID-19, we can think some centroids, it may represent the COVID-19 positive, and some centroids, it may indicate it's a tuberculosis or some kind of things. And some centroid, it can represent the pneumonia, and some centroids may indicate this is a type of the normal and healthy subjects. And we use the K-means to generate the cluster centroids, and then we will calculate the adjacency matrix. The adjacency matrix, please, you can look at on the left picture. Suppose we have the node I and the node J. And on the right, you can see the pixel value, or let's say the entry value at the ith row and the jth column is 1, which indicates there should be one link between the node I and the node J. So you can think the node I is the ith sample, it's an ith CT scan, and the node J means like a jth sample, a jth CT scan. So they're linked together. It means there exists some similarity between those 2 images. Okay, so now we have explained how to construct the graph. Then we develop 3 different models. The first model, you can think we have a backbone model. The main branch from top to the bottom is based on the ResGenet 101. And meanwhile, on the right side branch, we create a graph. And we will use the graph generated features to multiply with the features from the ResNet 101. So you can think here, the main branch and the side branch, they are in parallel. And and on the next slide, you can see another type of model. We try to concatenate the backbone model, the ResGenet, with our graph network in sequence. Yeah, it's not in parallel in the previous mode. And at the present slide, we try to concatenate them in sequence. We first use the traditional CNN to generate the features. And then we use the features and feed it and submit it into a graph network. And thirdly, I want to introduce some even more complicated and more beautiful and AI model, which can yield the more accurate results. So in this case, you can see here, let's first look at the bottom. The bottom branch shows we have a data set. Yeah, and we have from S1 to S2 until S17, and all this S1 to S17 is a type of the convolutional network. And after the S17 block, we get an IIR. This IIR means an image level individual representation. So until now, we can think this is quite similar to traditional convolutional network. And meanwhile, please see the top part, the top half part of this slide. We extract the CNN features, and then we use the k-means clustering to extract the centroids. And finally, we use the KN and k-nearest neighboring algorithms to construct a cluster centroid correlation. And then we can create a graph convolutional network. And now we come to the rightmost of this slide. We will extract the relation-aware representation, the RAR, from the graph network. Then we will combine the IIR with the RAR using a deep feature fusion scheme. And the multiplication results will send it to linear projection followed by softmax and to the cross entropy loss. Okay, so now you can see this slide shows the result, and our method is better than more than 15 state-of-the-art algorithms. So this result was published in Information Fusion last year. It has received almost 200 citations from Google Scholar. Okay. And due to the time limit, I will briefly introduce the attention network quickly. The attention network is another important network because the attention network can not only tell the neural network model where to focus, but it can also improve the representation of the interest. And in our field of the COVID-19 diagnosis, we develop 2 models. The first model is that we try to combine the C-band with the attention module. And on the bottom right, you can see we have like a real CT scan, and where the radiologist labeled in total 7 regions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And meanwhile, on the rightmost, you can see the AI model can output a heat map. And the heat map, where you can see the red and orange regions, it means the AI model will put more stress, put more emphasis on these suspicious regions. And all the red regions, it covers all the 7 suspicious regions labeled by our radiologist. So which shows that our AI model can almost 100% cover all the suspicious lesions of the CT scans. And another one is that we try to combine the VGG. Now we try to combine the VGG with the C-band. So from this one, we tested all the 4 categories. We tested the COVID-19, the CAP, the SPT, the healthy controls, and we find the results. All the results on all the 4 categories, and their heat maps can successfully indicate the suspicious regions labeled by our human experts. So it may give us like a road that nowadays our AI model can assist or even can replace the human radiologists. And finally, how do we make the explainable AI to the trustworthy AI? So we may need to run our model several times. This slide shows that suppose if we, for a COVID-19 CT scan, we try to test our model 3 times, and you can find all the 3 models can identify the suspicious regions successfully. And here I give like a zoomed in look on how the heat maps on the chest images, on the healthy, on the tuberculosis, and on the pneumonia. And this slide, finally, we give another model we have developed, like we're using the patch shuffle stochastic pooling neural network. Yeah, and we can find that our AI model can generate some heat maps that fit the human labelings. So which shows that the power for this, the power of our AI models. And let's do a summation here. So at the present, I have in this talk, I give 2 types of neural network models, the graph network and the attention network. There are also many other networks currently available on in the internet for COVID-19 diagnosis. Some are from the transfer learning, some are from the transformers, like the visual transformers, and also like the contrast learning, the semi-supervised learning, and the many types of models. And the audience, the attendees here, they may raise a question: which model is the best for the COVID-19 recognition or classification? The answer is a bit challenging. So first, we may need to remind what we call the Geiger principle. The prediction depends on the quality of the data we train our models on. So you can see from the top left what a Geiger means. It means a garbage in, a garbage out. So that means nowadays, if we want to evaluate the model, it does not make too much sense, because sometimes the model, the output of the model, it is dependent on the quality of the data, not the model itself. And the second thing we need to think is what we call the low-free lunch theory. So what does this low-free lunch theory mean? You can see at the bottom left corner. Suppose the green circle is the COVID-19 we have, and the gray ones, you can see there's a gray color rectangle. It's all the COVID-19, and this gray rectangle is like glowing every day, every hour. Yeah. So you can think that which means for each model we are training, we only use like a small portion of all the available COVID-19. So that means maybe some model, it works well on our own data, but it may not work well on the rest. Or on some other like data set we do not collect yet. So the low-free lunch theory tells us, no, the average performance of any pair of the 2 models across, let's say, across all the COVID-19 is identical. So let's make a long story short. There's no need to argue which model is better or not. So what we need to do is that we can explore like on this artificial intelligence field and try to push this like the front line of the machine learning, the deep learning to some better performance. Okay, thanks, and it's an honor for me to give a talk here. I will transfer my microphone to the chair, and then okay. Let me check. I will stop sharing. Hello, are there any questions? Feel free to ask any questions, and you can also drop me any emails, because I remember we have only 30 minutes for the presentation, so I just left 5 minutes for the question and answer.
Also, as you mentioned about VGG.net, would you like to enlighten us something about what VGG.net is?
Hello, hello. Can you repeat your question? I did not catch you quite well.
Also, as you mentioned about VGG network that we're using, so would you like to throw some light on that?
Oh, so you want to ask what is the motivation why we choose VGG? Why we do not choose some other pre-trained models, right?
Yeah, maybe AlexNet, or I want to ask why VGG?
It's a good question. And you may know that currently we have numerous pre-trained models and I think the state of the art is ResNet. Yeah, but you know, in some situations when we try to combine it with the attention module, we find that the ResNet does not work quite well. So again, this is, let's say, some data-driven, because you may be aware that currently most of our AI models, they are data-driven. Maybe from theoretical analysis, we think the ResNet can get some better results. But in realistic, we find the VGG, it works even well than, let's say, than the ResNet. But you know, our result, our conclusion may vary when it comes to another different data set. As I said, nowadays, the AI model is a bit of the data-driven, and due to the low-free lunch theorem, the GIGO, you know, the garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, you can think if the labeling is wrong, let's think an extreme case, the radiologist give a wrong labeling, then the whole data set is wrong, and the entire classifier is not good, definitely.
Yeah, I have one question to you, sir.
Thank you.
My question is that nowadays means a lot of different variants of COVID-19 are coming, of the different variants of the virus are coming in near future and will come. So does the data science has the solution for this, where we don't have the real data, that how those variants are going to affect what could be the possible date on which the new pandemic will start, or the kind of mortality rate or the number of people are going to affect it? So what could be the possible way, although this is a complex question? So what could be the possible way, because the variant which has not come yet, we cannot identify that thing. So how the data can our algorithms which are producing could be matched with the real time data which will be there in the near future?
So I think this relates to a concept called the data drift, or the concept drift. Like you said, we may have many variants in the coming near future. Or like we have the raw COVID-19, we have the Delta, and now we have the Omicron. Yeah, I think from one side, let's say we can use the transfer learning even in a fine field. Because originally when we say transfer learning, it's like we have a 1,000 category from the natural images we transferred to the COVID-19. Yes, but let's say if we train a classifier using the raw COVID-19, it will be much better to transfer that classifier to detect the Delta or even the Omicron. So this is like one possible solution. And another way, when you say the different modalities, I think you may mean that we can using the X-ray, we can using the CT, we can even using the ultrasound, we can even using the different, let's say, the imaging method, or even using the viral test. Let's say we insert a swab into your nose, and that also is a type of you can think like a modalities. So currently, what we think is that we can try to generate an AI model that receives multiple input, and then we call it the multiple input like AI. But again, this type of the AI model, it needs much more data set. Yes, to get a stable and get a reliable classifier. And also, like you said, different hospitals and different countries, they may also have some drift because their collected data may have like a group level drift to the other hospitals. So I think in this case, it gives some challenges to our let's say to our to this like a problem. But we do expect that we can have some like recent, let's say, the contrast learning. The contrast learning is a good way because it can use the semi like supervised learning or self-supervised learning kind of things, and it does not need too many labeling. I think in this way we can combine all the heterogeneous data together into one model and make it even better. But that needs like the contribution, particularly the unselfish contribution from all the hospitals over all the world. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for the answer. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Ashish. I think it's a real like an excellent question. I hope we can visit you in India soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Zhang. Thank you for accepting our invitation and give a wonderful talk on the COVID-19. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Debek. It's very nice because I already know you. Many of my friends also know you, and it's the first time I can see your face. I hope that I can visit India and meet you in person.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for enlightening us on the applications of AI in medical prognostication. We're sure this could save a lot of lives. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Upendra Kumar, Organizing Chair, DoSCI 2022, to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Gaurav. So, good evening, everyone. So, I, on behalf of Organizing Committee of DoSCI 2022, feel honored and privileged to get opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this closing ceremony. So first and foremost, it is my honor and privilege to convey my thanks and gratitude to our chief guest, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Pradeep Kumar Mishra sir, who in spite of busy schedule has found time to grace the ceremony of third doctoral symposium on computational intelligence. And second, I would like to give heartfelt thanks to our guest of honor, DoSCI 2022, for giving his valuable time and presence in this program. I'm very much thankful to our distinguished speaker for accepting our request and gracing us with his keynote address. I would like to give sincere thanks to head of our IET family, Professor Vineet Kansal sir, Director IT Lucknow, for his leadership, continuous support and guidance, and creating ecosystem for smooth conduction of this program. I would like to give special thanks to General Chair DoSCI 2022, Professor D.S. Yadav sir, creating such a wonderful academic culture and environment in our department, without which it was not possible to conduct such a successful program. I would like to give a special thanks to our keynote speakers. First keynote speaker, Dr. Ashish Khanna ji. Second keynote speaker, Dr. Neeram Dubey ma'am. And the third keynote speaker, Professor Yu-Dong Zhang, for their valuable keynote addresses. So today we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will surely be going to encourage us in our future events. I'm thankful to all the advisory committee members, head of other departments, faculty members, and their teams to provide valuable suggestions and support. I'm thankful to our convener of the program, Dr. Ashish Khanna ji, Associate Convener, Dr. Deepak Gupta ji, and Organizing Chair, Dr. Parul Yadav ji, for their hard work and great efforts to make this successful program. I'm also thankful to all the dignitaries, attendees, students connected through Zoom or YouTube participants, researchers present over here. Finally, last but not the least, I am thankful to our student coordinators, staff members, media persons who have given 24 hours support for smoothly conduction of this program and turning this to a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
to you also, sir. You also paid great efforts to make this event success, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, over to Gaurav, sir. Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We've had an extremely useful